To get the attention of a girl he liked, a boy jumped into some wet cement. Things did not go as planned, and the boy's life was jeopardized. Today, we'll go over the plot of Grey's Anatomy, a 2005 television series. A young patient with a serious injury is admitted to Seattle Grace Hospital, shocking the entire medical staff. The teen's body is immobilized in solidified concrete, and the boy has miraculously survived. Kelly Torres, an orthopedist, decides to interview the 4 teenagers who reported what happened to the patient Andy to the police an hour later. The boys had apparently encouraged him to climb up to the construction site and jump into the cement. They laugh as they recount the accident and tell the doctor that they did not expect such an act from the quiet Andy. Dr. Torres attempts to appeal to the teenagers' consciences, but they refuse to admit their guilt and deny their friendship with the victim. Meanwhile, Dr. Miranda Bailey, the head of the surgical department, tries to figure out what to do about the unusual case. Andy is carefully carved out of the concrete mixer by construction workers who take care not to touch his body. However, in order to proceed with the boy's release, the specialist must give his approval. She gathers her thoughts and tries to calm the sobbing patient, promising that she will definitely find a way out. The fact that the concrete is slowly sucking the water out of Andy's body complicates matters, and he requires surgery as soon as possible. The doctors at Seattle Grace Hospital face shocking medical cases, incurable patients, and occupational powerlessness on a daily basis. At the same time, they continue to live their normal lives, attempting to eliminate not only the complications of the diseases, but also the difficulties in their personal lives. Thus, Meredith Grey, a general surgeon, seeks psychological therapy to help her cope with the aftermath of her mother's death. The unresolved trauma of the young woman is affecting her relationship with neurosurgeon Derek Shepard. After deciding that their relationship is over, the man decides to sell the plot of land he purchased for their future home. Meanwhile, Beth, a young woman, is admitted to the surgical ward with a brain tumor. The disease progresses quickly, and the patient is unable to move her right arm. Derek and Meredith wish to enroll the young lady in an experimental treatment program. The neurosurgeon intends to inject a live virus into the patient's tumor, killing it from within. Beth is exhausted from her destructive illness and excited about her role as a test subject, but her worried parents do not share her excitement. Unfortunately, Derek confirms their fears by informing them that the experimental program has not helped other patients. Jeremy, another clinical trial participant, enters the room. The guy met Beth in a cancer patient's psychological support group, and they've been bonded by romantic feelings ever since. Meredith and Derek are escorted out of the room by the girl's parents, who inform them that they do not want the boy near their daughter. The teenagers have gone through chemotherapy and radiation treatments together, and Beth may not survive the death of her boyfriend if he does not recover from the disease. Chief Surgeon Richard Weber attends a doctor's meeting to learn about their knowledge of the patient trapped in the concrete. The surgeons are at a loss for how to proceed with the operation because any action they take could result in a fatal error. They inform their boss that the patient's heart and lungs may fail, and that his limbs and internal organs may be damaged. The chief physician intervenes to end an argument between the surgeons. Andy is critically ill, and they only have 6 hours to get him out of the concrete and into the operating room. Meanwhile, Surgeon Alex Karev is going through a difficult personal situation. Previously, he had fallen in love with his patient Rebecca, who had been saved in a ferry accident. Because of her past, the girl developed psychological issues, and the guy is desperately trying to help the girl he loves cope with the disorder. Izzy Stevens, Alex's colleague, assists him in caring for the sick girl, but she notices that the patient's condition is deteriorating, and she begins to lose control of reality. Rebecca and Alex are alone when the girl confesses to him that she peed herself. Jeremy spent the entire time leading up to the surgery in Beth's room. He tells the girl about the other members of the support group who died as a result of the brutal disease. The girl tries to cheer up the boy by telling him that the experimental program will undoubtedly benefit them. Beth's mother is upset by the teenagers' interaction and requests that Dr. Gray remove her daughter from the boy's room. When Jeremy begins convulsing and falls to the floor, she and Beth have an argument. At this point, the construction workers begin gradually releasing Andy from the concrete, under the close supervision of the surgeons. The boy tries to overcome his fear of dying and tells the doctors that he jumped into the concrete tank to save his friend, Lola. The other teenagers in the company took her to the construction site to watch Andy jump, and the naive boy was only looking to impress the pretty girl. He ironically compares himself to the carbonite-encased Han Solo from Star Wars. Meredith is informed by Richard Webber that the review board is dissatisfied with the clinical trial results. After injecting the live virus, the doctors have already lost 11 patients. If they lose just one more patient, their experimental program will be permanently halted. This news devastates Dr. Gray. In a psychotherapy session, she expresses her personal resentment toward the chief physician, Webber. He used to be her mother's lover, but he left her to avoid ruining his family. The woman believes that this event influenced her mother's decision to commit suicide. Later, Meredith tries to persuade Derek to give Beth a chance and not deny her participation in the experimental program. She suggests that the girl's surgery be performed on the same day as Jeremy's. Meredith eventually persuades Derek to bend the rules, and they leave to tell their patients the good news. Dr. Gray orders intern George O'Malley to perform some tests on Jeremy. The errand irritates the young doctor, who desires to do more serious work. He complains to Lexi, another intern, about not being trusted with exciting tasks and being denied access to the concrete boy. The guy wishes he could gain access to the personnel files of the staff to learn why the senior doctors are treating him so poorly. Beth is concerned about her boyfriend, who is having surgery in a few hours. Dr. Gray agrees to let her into Jeremy's room, but her parents are adamantly opposed. Meredith is informed by the distraught girl that she and Jeremy are the only survivors of their group. Meanwhile, the procedure to free Andrew from the concrete is still ongoing. He has a panic attack when he realizes what a ridiculous situation he's gotten himself into. Dr. Bailey compares the patient to his favorite character, Han Solo, to calm him down. He was brave, she claims, and aided Luke Skywalker in destroying the Death Star. Finally, the hero was able to escape the carbonite with the help of his beloved Princess Leia. Andy gains hope for a happy ending as a result of her words, and Dr. Bailey's colleagues are astounded by her knowledge of the Star Wars universe. Derek and Meredith come across Beth in the hallway, who is attempting to find her way to Jeremy's room while her parents are away. She begs the doctors to take her to her boyfriend and requests a small favor in return. The girl desires to be alone with her boyfriend in order to make love. Beth is concerned that they will not have another chance after the operation and wishes to spend their final moments in each other's arms. The attending physicians agree to make accommodations and assist the girl in cleaning up before meeting her boyfriend. While their patients enjoy sexual pleasures, Derek and Meredith guard the door to their room and reminisce about their own crushes. Beth's parents approach the doctors, concerned about their daughter's sudden disappearance. Dr. Gray convinces the couple that the girl is having an MRI and takes them to her office. The surgeons in charge of Andy's operation notice that his condition is deteriorating. His leg swells more and more with each piece of concrete removed by the construction workers. To save the patient's limb, the doctors decide to relieve pressure in the patient's leg. Dr. Kelly makes an incision in Andy's leg and drains the blood-red fluid. Rebecca's condition rapidly worsens. Alex notices the girl sitting in the bathtub, surrounded by water. She mumbles incoherent remarks about her baby and barely responds to what the man says to her. Ezzy is concerned about his friend and girlfriend and attempts to contact them, but neither of them answers the phone. Jeremy and Beth have had their fill of fun, and it's time to say goodbye before surgery. With tears in her eyes, the girl tells her boyfriend that he has improved her life and that she is afraid she will never see him again. Jeremy kisses her and promises her that they will have a wonderful future together. Derek and Meredith take the boy to surgery while watching the lovebirds talk, realizing the weight of responsibility they now bear. Lexi invites George to join her in the closet, where she has been hiding from everyone. The girl had stolen O'Malley's personnel file from the head doctor's office. However, George is too righteous and instructs his colleague to return the file to the chief's office. Undaunted, the girl informs her friend that he failed the exam but was only 1 point away from getting a residency. The exhausted surgical team supervises the final stages of Andy's release from the concrete before transporting him to surgery. Dr. Bailey is concerned that they have overlooked something critical in monitoring the boy's condition and begins listing all of the possible complications allowed. A drink in her colleague's hand prompts the woman to consider the patient's bladder. Doctors have been giving Andy fluids for 4 hours to keep him from dehydrating. The boy needs a catheter inserted right away, or his bladder will explode. Izzy finally manages to contact Alex while he is preparing lunch for Rebecca. The man walks away to another room where he can speak and rudely requests that his colleague stop interfering in his life. Rebecca's groaning can be heard from the kitchen, and Alex rushes to her, hanging up the phone. Meredith and Derek are getting ready to operate on Jeremy. Dr. Gray is overjoyed that they will be able to save someone's life. Unfortunately, miracles are rare, and the child dies during brain surgery. Meredith and Derek, devastated, come to Beth's room to break the bad news about her boyfriend. When he dies, the girl bursts into tears. Derek later discards a bottle of champagne that they were supposed to drink with Meredith if the clinical trial was successful. When Beth has calmed down, the attending physicians return to her room. Dr. Shepard advises the girl not to undergo surgery after their 12th patient death. Meredith, on the other hand, attempts to persuade the patient to take a chance by promising to increase the dosage of the live virus. Beth's parents no longer want her to participate in the untrustworthy clinical trials, but she refuses to back down. She is convinced that if she does not participate in the experimental program, she will perish. Furthermore, Jeremy would be furious if she gave up. Dr. Torres emerges from the operating room and calls Lola. She tries to persuade the girl to come see Andy before the difficult surgery in order to cheer up the boy who is madly in love with her. The girl likes him as well, but she refuses to go to him because of her friend's mockery. Kelly is disappointed in Lola's decision and warns her that she will come to regret it. Despite Meredith's protests, Derek refuses to operate on Beth. The neurosurgeon is afraid of losing another patient and does not want to be known as a doctor who loses all of his patients. He accuses his colleague of being conceited and refuses to work with her any longer. Dr. Torres returns to the operating room and informs Andy that she has been unable to locate Lola. The boy deduces that the girl has declined to pay him a visit. He tells the doctor that before the accident, they often spent time together and came close to kissing. Dr. Bailey informs the boy of the consequences before removing the last bits of concrete from him. Because of the toxins in his body, his heart may stop, and he may lose his ability to breathe for a short time. The doctor immediately reassures Andy, promising that her colleagues will restart his heart and connect him to a ventilator. The last piece of concrete is then removed, and the doctors immediately begin resuscitating the patient. Dr. Gray goes to yet another counseling session. She is skeptical of the therapist's claims that her mother did not intend to end her life. During the conversation, The woman recalls her most recent conversation with her mother, in which her mother advised her not to be a mediocre woman. Meredith decided to become a surgeon after hearing this advice from her mother. The therapist assures the patient that her professional skills will assist her in locating a clue and that she will soon figure it out on her own. The file is returned to the head doctor's office by George and Lexi. Instead of thanking her, O'Malley criticizes his colleague for assisting him. He used to believe that the real issue wasn't with him and that the other doctors simply didn't like him. However, now that he knows the truth, he realizes that he was not a good enough specialist to earn one more point on the exam. Alex transports Rebecca to the hospital, her wrists slit. He requests that Izzy bring him saline solution and suture material so that he can care for his girlfriend on his own. The girl can no longer ignore her colleague's reckless behavior and informs him that Rebecca needs to be hospitalized immediately and seen by a psychiatrist. This enrages Alex, and he emotionally insults Izzy for interfering. The doctors are able to resuscitate Andy and continue with the surgery. George and Lexi stand back and observe the proceedings. The girl does not give up in attempts to persuade her fellow intern that he is an excellent specialist. Lexi discovers that George has the most positive patient recommendations after reviewing the other doctor's personnel files. The girl believes that what distinguishes the guy from his colleagues is not a single exam score, but rather the kindness he exhibits when working with patients. The girl's words cause George to reconsider his career. As he seeks advice from her boss, Dr. Bailey, following the unpleasant incident with Alex. She describes Rebecca's suicide attempt and claims that Karev has completely lost control of his emotions. The woman advises the girl to be tough and act like a professional tasked with assisting a sick patient. During Andy's surgery, the surgeons discover a blockage in his pulmonary artery and his condition worsens. Christina Young, a junior cardiac surgeon, persuades her colleagues to perform a thoracotomy in order to gain quick access to the patient's chest and save time. Back in the operating room, Erica Hahn attempts to find errors in the resident's work and wishes to take command of the operation, but Christina dismisses the senior specialist rudely. Derek eventually agrees to perform Beth's surgery. The doctor continues to doubt his abilities and is concerned about losing another patient. Beth senses his fear and admits to the neurosurgeon that she too is terrified. Thankfully, the clinical procedure goes smoothly and the patient survives. The danger, however, remains until she regains consciousness. Richard Weber approaches the cardiologists after they have finished their part of the job. He persuades Erica that she should have more faith in Christina and be a better teacher to her. Young thanks the head doctor for his assistance after inadvertently overhearing their conversation. Despite Alex's protests, Izzy brings Rebecca a psychiatrist. She warns the man that if he tries to take the sick woman home, she will call the cops. Alex lashes out, attempting to persuade his coworker that he can care for his girlfriend on his own. In an emotional moment, he tells Izzy that as a child, he used to look after his mentally ill mother. When the girl realizes her friend has been through hell in the past, she stops him and asks him to calm down. Dr. Weber enters the room with the patient, whose condition is already being monitored by George following Andy's successful surgery. The chief medical officer praises the intern for reporting on the boy's current condition. O'Malley gains courage and tells the chief that he wants to run more meaningful tasks. He admits to having a soft temper and not having the firm grip that his colleagues do. Nonetheless, the man believes he is a brilliant professional who deserves a second chance. Weber allows the intern to retake the exam after hearing his moving monologue. Dr. Torres runs into Lola in the hallway, who has been in the waiting room all night. Kelly, relieved, informs the girl that Andy's surgery was a success. Lola decides to enter the boy's room after he regains consciousness. She gives him the long-awaited kiss while gently running her hands through his hair. Alex enters Rebecca's room and tells her the truth about her past. Her ex-husband abandoned her months ago, taking their child with him. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and her illness worsened rapidly following the ferry accident. Rebecca underwent plastic surgery and a physical transformation, following which a new identity, Eva, emerged in her mind. Alex eventually admits to her and to himself that he is unable to provide her with the assistance she requires. Rebecca apologizes to her boyfriend as they say their goodbyes for her failure to be a better person for him. Meredith discovers puddles of red liquid on the kitchen floor upon entering the resident's common room and proceeds to vigorously dispose of it. Later, in the hospital corridor, she runs into Richard Weber, who discovers that Shepard performed Beth's experimental surgery without his permission. The young woman is irritated and refuses to listen to the head doctor's lectures. Meredith, on the other hand, blames the man for her mother's suicide attempt after he abandoned her. The girl suddenly realizes what the psychiatrist has been trying to tell her all along. Meredith tells the therapist at the seance that Alice Gray was a great surgeon. She would not have cut her wrist if she truly wanted to end her life. She would have cut her carotid artery with a scalpel. Meredith's mother did not want to die. She simply desired Richard's attention so that he would return to her. Dr. Weber was never told what happened, and Alice Gray was too proud to call him back. Meredith is advised by the psychiatrist to learn from her mother's mistakes and to not deny herself the opportunity to be an extraordinarily happy woman. Dr. Gray is delighted to see that Beth's tumor has begun to shrink after reviewing new scans of her brain. Her coworker congratulates her on her significant medical breakthrough. Meredith rushes to share her joy with Derek, but she can't find him or the celebratory bottle of champagne. Dr. Shepard hears her parents crying softly as he walks past Beth's room. When he enters the room, he is relieved to see that the girl has awakened. She greets the doctor with tears in her eyes and informs him that she can now move her arm. Derek takes the champagne from the trash and rushes to meet his girlfriend after hearing the good news. Dr. Miranda Bailey decides to entrust the surgical ward keys to her underling Ezzy after a difficult day. The woman wants to get her family life back on track and admits to her coworker that she is the only one she can trust at the clinic. Another day has come to an end at the Seattle Gray Clinic. Richard Weber goes to his wife and declares his desire to return home thanks to Mark's encouragement. He no longer wants to choose between his career and his family, and he persuades his wife that he will be a good husband as well as a doctor. The relieved George informs Lexi that he has been granted permission to retake the test and kisses the embarrassed girl. Ezzy consoles a broken-hearted Alex, and he kisses her back, begging her to spend the night with him. Derek comes across Meredith outside her trailer. She made a candle plan for their future home on the lot he was going to sell. The girl is upset with her boyfriend for not returning home for an extended period of time, and she was in such a rush to tell him that she wants them to be the most unremarkable couple in the hospital with him again. Derek's long kiss interrupts Meredith's frustration. What's the most desperate thing you'd do to impress the man you're interested in? Fill in the blanks with your answer, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.